The air crackled with anticipation, or perhaps it was just the static electricity from the avalanche of scathing reviews burying Meghan Markle's latest Netflix venture. With Love, Meghan, a holiday special intended to resurrect her image instead became a spectacular bonfire of her carefully constructed persona. The promise was a cozy glimpse into Markle's festive world, a chance to connect with the real Meghan. What audiences received was a masterclass in inauthenticity, a curated performance so transparent it felt insulting. Netflix, initially seduced by the Markle mystique, envisioned a holiday hit, a safe bet fueled by her global recognition. They were wrong. Terribly, spectacularly wrong. The special's failure wasn't a slow burn, it was an immediate implosion. Viewership plummeted faster than Santa down a chimney after one too many mince pies. The problem wasn't just low numbers, it was the visceral reaction. Viewers weren't indifferent, they were actively repelled. The opening scene set the tone. Meghan, alone in a Christmas tree lot, devoid of other customers, twirling as if plucked from a Hallmark movie reject. No families, no children, just Meghan and a camera crew orchestrating a scene that screamed performance. The emptiness was palpable, in a stark contrast to the warmth and chaos of a real Christmas tree hunt. This wasn't the relatable Meghan. This was Meghan playing a role, and playing it badly. Inside, the staged illusion continued. A gaggle of women, presented as close friends, were revealed to be employees. A wardrobe stylist, a content creator, household staff. Dressed in identical pajamas, they dutifully laughed at Meghan's every utterance, creating an atmosphere of forced merriment. It wasn't a genuine gathering. It was a carefully constructed commercial for Meghan's brand, a brand that was rapidly losing its luster. Then came the Advent calendar debacle. Forget chocolates or trinkets. Meghan unveiled an advent calendar filled with handwritten affirmations, weighty pronouncements like, "You are brave." What child wants a lecture when they're expecting a treat? The moment epitomized Meghan's disconnect from reality, her inability to grasp the simple joys of this. It wasn't a heartwarming tradition, it was a self-centered sermon, delivered with an air of unwarranted gravitas. The internet exploded with mockery, turning the advent calendar into a symbol of Meghan's out-of-touch persona. Adding insult to injury, Meghan appeared in a sleeveless green dress, strikingly similar to one worn by Emma Thin, the Marchioness of Bath, over a year prior. The resemblance was undeniable, sparking accusations of blatant copying. The choice was baffling, not just for its lack of originality, but for its tone deafness. Meghan, dressed for a gala, stood in stark contrast to her casually attired guests, highlighting her desperate need to appear elite, even in a supposedly intimate setting. The dress became a symbol of Meghan's insecurity, her obsession with projecting an image of unattainable perfection. Netflix executives, watching the special unravel, began to understand the gravity of their mistake. They had bet on Meghan's star power, her ability to captivate audiences. Instead, they had invested in a mirage, a carefully constructed facade that crumbled under scrutiny. The authenticity, the relatability, the charm, it was all an illusion. Even Prince Harry seemed trapped in this manufactured reality. He appeared in brief snippets, looking weary and detached, a shadow of his former self. The spark was gone, replaced by a palpable discomfort. His body language spoke volumes. He stood stiffly, avoiding eye contact, a man trapped in a performance he no longer believed in. Rumors of marital strife had long swirled around the couple, and the special only amplified those whispers. Harry looked like a man who wanted to be anywhere else, a man who had lost his way. The gumbo scene was perhaps the most telling. Meghan, ever the hostess, boasted about her Christmas Eve tradition, a detail that rang hollow considering the couple's relatively short time together. Harry blessed his heart, then chimed in to remind her that his portion was seafood-free, a subtle nod to the royal family's aversion to seafood due to the risk of food poisoning. The moment exposed the chasm between Meghan's carefully constructed narrative and the reality of her life. She was trying to create a tradition, but it felt forced, inauthentic, a performance for the cameras. What truly shattered the illusion, however, was the news breaking simultaneously with the special's release. Thomas Markle, Meghan's estranged father, he was in intensive care after suffering a serious medical emergency. The contrast was devastating. Here was Meghan, baking cookies and twirling in holiday cheer, while her father, the man who raised her, lay in a hospital bed fighting for his life. The optics were catastrophic. The public, already skeptical of Meghan's carefully curated image, reacted with fury. How could she preach about family values while seemingly ignoring her own father's suffering? The timing couldn't have been worse. The The special, intended to showcase Meghan's warmth and compassion, instead revealed a cold detachment, a chilling indifference to the plight of her own flesh and blood. The whispers began to darken, fueled by years of resentment and suspicion. Some even suggested that Meghan was waiting for her father to pass, freeing her to rewrite their history without his inconvenient presence. It was a harsh accusation, but one that resonated with a public increasingly disillusioned by Meghan's actions. The fallout extended beyond the special itself. Meghan's lifestyle brand, as ever, already struggling with quality issues and customer complaints, took another hit. The special inadvertently exposed the same flaws plaguing the brand. Beautiful packaging, but ultimately hollow. The expensive decor, the polished kitchen, the perfect angles, none of it matched the reality of the products she was selling. Industry insiders began to whisper that As Ever was on track to become one of the fastest celebrity brand collapses in recent memory. The failure stung not because Meghan expected instant success, but because she believed her name alone would be enough to carry the brand. The special proved otherwise. Her name, once a powerful asset, was now becoming a liability. Inside Netflix, the atmosphere shifted from disappointment to outright panic. The platform had invested heavily in Meghan, hoping to capitalize on her global appeal. The disastrous reception of the special forced them to confront a painful truth. Meghan couldn't carry a show. The authenticity wasn't there. The charm wasn't there. The audience connection wasn't there. Rumors began to leak that Netflix was reconsidering future projects with Meghan, quietly putting the brakes on their partnership without triggering a full-blown public relations war. When Meghan heard the news, panic reportedly set in. The special, intended to be her triumphant return, had instead become the nail in the coffin. The failure wasn't just a professional setback, it was a personal reckoning. Every carefully constructed narrative, every calculated move had backfired spectacularly. The special became a symbol of everything going wrong in Meghan's public life, a magnifying glass, amplifying every flaw she desperately tried to conceal. She had strived to project warmth, but only radiated a chilling detachment. She preached about family, yet stood estranged from her own. She sold authenticity through staged scenes and scripted cheer, a blatant contradiction that viewers couldn't ignore. Even her marriage appeared strained, a casualty of the relentless pursuit of image and control. Hollywood, a town that thrives on reinvention, watched with morbid fascination. For years, Meghan has successfully navigated the treacherous waters of fame, transforming herself from actress to duchess to activist to entrepreneur. But the Christmas special exposed a deeper truth. She wasn't reinventing. She was running from critics, from accountability, from the life she had built and then abandoned. Netflix hadn't exposed her with a scandalous documentary or a damning headline. They had exposed her with her own footage, her own choices, her own behavior, her own contradictions. The camera, once her most trusted ally, had become her harshest critic, capturing the hollowness beneath the carefully crafted surface. This moment was particularly dangerous because for the first time, Meghan didn't control the narrative. The public saw her, not as she wanted to be seen, but as she truly was. A woman desperate for validation, clinging to a fading image and increasingly disconnected from reality. The reviews were brutal, a relentless barrage of criticism that spared no detail. The special was labeled tone-deaf, inauthentic, and utterly boring. Critics savaged her performance, her fashion choices, her attempts at relatability. The internet exploded with memes and parodies, mocking her every move, every utterance, every carefully posed expression. Inside Netflix, the mood was grim. Executives once enthusiastic about their partnership with Meghan now faced the harsh reality of their misjudgment. The platform had invested millions, not just in the special, but in the promise of future projects, hoping to tap into Meghan's global fan base. Now they were left with a costly failure and a tarnished reputation. The decision to quietly sideline Meghan was swift and decisive. Future projects were quietly shelved, contracts were discreetly renegotiated, and the platform began to distance itself from the Markle brand. It wasn't a public execution, but a slow, deliberate fade, a strategic retreat designed to minimize the damage. The failure of the Christmas special marked a turning point in Meghan's public life. The carefully constructed facade had crumbled, revealing the insecurity and desperation beneath. The public, once captivated by her story, had grown weary of the performance, the constant striving for perfection, the relentless pursuit of image. As the cameras stopped rolling and the PR statements faded, Meghan was left with something she couldn't script: the cold, hard reality of public perception. The audience had spoken, and their message was clear. They didn't like what they saw. And that realization, more than the backlash, more than the ratings, more than the critics, was the most terrifying thing of all.